Hello, everybody. We're about to get started. First thing I'd like to do is let everyone know that is watching via Zoom that we are offering interpretations in both Spanish and Portuguese this evening. You can find the interpretation at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you click on the little looks like globe, and then you can choose either English, Portuguese, or Spanish. Also, we are using the Q&A function this evening for questions. Those questions will also be interpreted in Spanish and Portuguese. You can also find that in the bottom bar of your Zoom screen. If you have any questions for the candidate, you can ask them there. And for now, I will turn it over to our Human Resources Director, Bill Cole.
Thank you, Sarah, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this community forum. Tonight we have Elizabeth Freedman with us to answer your questions over the course of the next hour or so. And again, feel free to put them in the Q&A box, and I will moderate the questions and relay them to Ms. Freeman. So with that, I will turn it over to Liz for an opening statement.
Great, thank you, Bill. Good morning. Good morning. No, sorry, that is my standard. That's a good way to start. Good evening to the Barnstable community. I'm really happy to be here. I hope I can give you an idea of who I am as an educator, as well as find out what's important to you for the students, staff, and community at Barnstable High School. I know that we may all be tired of talking about the pandemic, but I feel we really need to acknowledge the toll it's taken on all of us in our schools. So the pandemic, we know, has taken a toll on much human life, spirit in many places, and mental health. It has also helped us see more clearly many of the inequities that exist locally, nationally, and internationally. And while I'm not minimizing the destruction that has come over the past year, I'm really more focused on the opportunities that we have moving forward. The past year has tested us all and tested schools. As we move forward, all schools are going to need to balance two things, I think. The first is getting schools back on track with teaching and learning, extracurricular activities, athletics, and meeting the academic and social emotional needs of students, and especially those who struggled most during the pandemic. The second is healing, reflecting, and figuring out together how we want to move forward from the events of the last year, which include not just the pandemic, but the rising awareness of racism and determination to do something about it. What I want to focus on today is my vision for schools, which would guide my approach to both of these tasks if I became your principal. So a little bit about me. I've been in public education for the past 24 years in a variety of roles, starting as a paraprofessional at an alternative school in the Boston Public Schools and ending with my current job as principal of Greater Lawrence Technical High School. I've been fortunate to work in both urban and suburban settings, in a vocational high school and in comprehensive high schools and a middle school. Throughout my career in education, I have focused on creating school environments that take into account all aspects of a student's education and needs. My vision as a school leader is to create environments that integrate academic knowledge and skills, social emotional learning, and college and career readiness to prepare students for our times and beyond. One of the keys to this vision is collaboration. I've seen, as I'm sure many of you have, time and time again, what a group of people can accomplish when they work together rather than in individual silos. Not only does it produce better results, but it empowers, motivates, and inspires people to continue working towards the success of all students. My approach to collaboration has been strengthened recently by my involvement with a group of educators and thinkers who are working on bringing a compassionate systems framework to schools. This framework builds off of the social emotional learning work many of us are doing. It seeks to help students and the rest of us both to understand the world's most pressing sustainability and equity issues, while building the emotional capacity to deal with these issues and each other in healthy ways. One of the main premises of this framework is understanding the interconnectedness of our systems, from ecologies to economies, which in turn can provide the big picture perspective we need to figure out how to work together to make changes for the greater good. We apply compassionate systems in so many ways in our schools. We can apply it in so many ways to a curriculum, with staff, collaborations, in supporting students, in doing equity work, which is certainly relevant right now. I've always believed that education can be an equalizer, but the inequities of society have constantly gotten in the way systems are set up. To achieve what we know education can be, we need to do the deep work of recognizing and undoing inequities in our own communities and school systems so that we can move forward with creating systems and communities that allow all our students to flourish. I hope to be part of a system that is open to reflecting on who we are and how we operate, and where needed to reimagine education to ensure it meets the needs of today's students, deepens their learning, and prepares them to be global citizens. As I've been getting to know Barnstable better through my visit today, which was great, watching the recent community forum videos and talking with people, I feel that you and I are aligned in what we think matters, and that is why I'm really excited about this position.
Oh, and with the delay, we just need to allow the translators to catch up with the answers. So the first question is, could you explain to what extent you believe the arts are important as part of a high school student's curriculum?
Sure. I had this question a lot today, which I love. I think they're extremely important. I was really happy to see I think it was in the history hallway, in one of the science hallways, art all over the walls, and hearing that people are really trying to use art to communicate in many content areas. I think it allows students to explore the world around them, to explore content in really creative ways, and connects with students in all different ways, because there's so many different types of art. So I think it's extremely important. Personally, I love the arts and theater, and so I was really excited to see what Barnstable High School had today.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, could you give us a couple of examples of why you feel you will fit into the Barnstable High School community?
Well, that's a good question. Well, why I hope I will. I think I have a real commitment to working with a diverse school population and doing the equity work. And from what I can see, the journey that the school has been on, that is something that the school system and the community is committed to as well. So I think that is one strong reason. I think with my recent vocational background, and I know I had some questions about, ideas and thoughts about strengthening the career pathways, and seeing some of the amazing work that's happening there. I think that is a real fit as well, sort of with a combination of comprehensive and vocational. So I think that I would have a lot to collaborate with people there. Was it one or two examples, Bill?
It's at a couple.
Oh, a couple. Okay. Okay. I'll give it oh gosh, let me see. There is, I think, the focus on social emotional learning that the district again is taking, and hearing about it today. It is definitely one of my passions. And I think that would be another really strong reason that I would be a fit.
Okay. So the next question mentions that Barnstable High has over 1,800 students and over 180 teachers. What is the largest numbers you have had as a principal?
So our school is a little over 1,600, and we have about 160 staff members. So it's certainly a little bit smaller, but still what I would consider a large high school.
Okay. Next question is, have you ever been the lead in negotiating with the teachers union?
I have not ever been the lead. I would say, been very fortunate to be able to be part of negotiations. I've really enjoyed being able to work with both the superintendent and the teachers union. So I've been part of them, but no, I have never been the lead.
Okay, the next question, the viewer said they noticed that Greater Lawrence has a program that starts at 11 a.m. and runs until 5:20 p.m. And the question is, how did you determine that was an alternative education format that was necessary for your students, and has it been successful?
We actually do not have a program that starts at 11. So I'm not sure on that question. I think that would be fantastic because we do have students who now in Lawrence Public Schools, they do have different programs that go on alternative hour, on different hours from their regular high school. So I'm not sure if it was from there. But I can certainly just say, I think looking at alternatives for students who have different needs is really important. Moving past barriers to student success. I think in whatever creative way we can do it, that is going to help students learn and grow is something that we should be looking at.
Thank you. Another question is, how do you plan on engaging with parents in two-way communication in the school?
That's a great question. I'm very open. We spent a lot of time at my current school working to, it was, a different community and different needs. We spent a lot of time working to connect with parents. So open to many different ways, but doing things like having coffees or after school activities where we can actually get in person and talk and have just open conversations. Having regular newsletters, which is not so much two-way, but whether it's like surveys or trying to elicit some sort of response from parents. I think certainly I would love to see, and it seems like there is a lot of involvement, but even being involved when there's needs for different curriculum or different departments, and trying to connect with parents in the community.
There's a follow-up about the Lawrence program. The viewer said it is called After Dark and it's on the website.
Like, you should know this. Yeah. So I'm not sure why it says it starts at 11. So I do know the After Dark program, and it's a fantastic program. It is for students who go to Lawrence High School, which is one of our sending communities, and it's a great program. They start at 11. Now it's all clicking, but they start at 11 at Lawrence High. So they go to their school where they're enrolled. And then after school, they come to us around 2:30 and stay until 5:20. And within 2 years, because they're coming as juniors, within 2 years, they will be able to get out on a co-op program, and hopefully, be successful in that field. So this was started a few years ago by one of the administration who did a fantastic job with it. And it has grown actually statewide from the work that they did at Greater Lawrence.
The next question is, why are you considering leaving your current position?
It's a very good question. I have really had a wonderful career at Greater Lawrence. We have moved from an underperforming level 3 school to a level 1 school. Just had many successes together, and certainly our trials as well. And feel like, after 14 years, and for those who sort of don't know my resume, I was in my last 2 districts for most of my career. I really want to take on a new challenge. So I certainly love where I have been, but am looking forward to a new opportunity.
Um, this isn't after dark, but the question is related. It's how do you feel about later start times for high schoolers?
Um, I I think it is great. I mean, I noticed just when we were doing remote school, I mean, the feedback from students was amazing, and the feedback from staff was strong too in terms of sort of students' preparedness, although it was remote. Um, the research certainly shows that teenagers could use more sleep, and in terms of sleeping later, I know that it is very hard for many reasons for districts to do that, depending on busing, on after school obligations. There's many different things depending on start times of other schools. But if in a ideal world, I think a later start time for high school would be warranted.
The next question is, can you speak about your experience with special education? How do you engage this group of students and parents with diverse learning needs?
Sure. Well, before I talk about the school that I'm currently at, I had the good fortune in the district I was in before in Cvte to start a school for students, special ed students with social emotional needs, which was what really got me into the path of administration. It was just working with a wonderful group of people and fantastic students and families who needed some extra support. But so I certainly, have had experience working with a special education population. In terms of at Greater Lawrence, we have a co-teaching model. We have inclusion. I mean, it's least restrictive, certainly as it should be, but we've made a real concerted effort to work on getting more and more students into inclusion. That doesn't mean there's not a time for having, a self-contained classroom, because there's certainly situations and cases to do that. But wherever possible, we really work to have an inclusion model. We have, again, fantastic staff who, in our ninth grade in history, for instance, where there is no self-contained classroom and everyone is inclusion, with a co-teacher to help support. The school has for years worked on around differentiated instruction, but certainly started working on UDL, the Universal Design for Learning, and to find ways to accommodate students of all different learning styles. So that becomes part of our practice in terms of what we look for in effective teaching at the school.
Okay, the next question is, having grades 8 to 12 in one building with such a wide range of age and developmental stages, what would you think could be the challenges of the 5-year high school experience for students? And what do you think you'd put in place to help overcome them?
Okay, great question. That was interesting. I've not experienced a 5th grade high school before. It was great to be able to ask some questions about it, and it seemed like it has gone very well after, I think, some initial concerns, which I can understand when making a change like that. When I think of the fact that you have 8th grade, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, and thinking of the work that you do, that schools do around college and career readiness, and being able to start that thread in 8th grade. Although I think somebody told me today that you in Barnstable, they're thinking of starting it even earlier. I think possibly even in 6th grade, which was really a neat idea. But certainly starting in 8th grade with whatever developmental piece of whether it's their college and career portfolio. I'm not sure what Barnstable uses, but that idea of developmentally being able to work in each grade and getting it through all 5 years. So culminating in them being ready to graduate at the end of it. I think the other thing is, which I think with the curriculum coordinators that are 6 to 12, which is fantastic, having that vertical alignment to really ensure that what students are learning is building upon. And that looks like it's happening not just in the high school with 8th grade in there, but in the middle school as well.
All right, the next question is, how would you ensure that the needs of higher level students would be met um, as we look at all the different students in the high school? How would you ensure that the higher level students their needs would be met also?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when we talk about all students, we were talking about high level students as well. So we want students at whatever level they're at to be challenged. So in terms of ensuring it, I mean, I think it's making sure that you have the offerings that students are interested in, and that teachers have the support that they need to make sure that they're able to challenge everyone at their, at their level.
Okay. The question is, have you supported implementing a co-teaching model, training, PD, observations, etc.?
I'm sorry, just say that, have I supported?
How have you supported?
Oh, I'm sorry. How have I supported a co-teaching model? We have had many trainings throughout the year around that. We've had teams of teachers go together. We've had coaches who have done the training come in and work with, going into the classes, and then meeting afterwards during the prep periods. And I mean, that work certainly is ongoing. I think as teams change, I don't think I have much more on that, but I mean, it's certainly, it's really necessary to do. It's for some people, they are naturals, but I think to do it really well, it's good to be on the same page and have those strategies, those effective strategies to work together.
Okay, what do you see as the role of a public relations communication strategy for a public high school?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure if this will answer it, but to me, communicating out the wonderful things that are happening in the school on a regular basis would be a form of public relations, and it would be really about celebrating the students and what they're doing, and having the students and their families able to see that. One of the things I really like to see is connections to the community, and being able to integrate that in ways, whether it's through project-based learning or some way where we're connecting back out and really making the learning relevant. So thinking of all the different opportunities for students to be presenting and connecting and being able to highlight all of that. I feel like, to me, that would be the role of the public relations, like really being authentic to what is happening in the high school. But I think just having an outlet to make it known, so that it's not sort of hidden away, all the good things that are happening.
Could you speak about ways that you've built and nurtured family engagement at your school?
Yeah, I mean, I am very honest, so I'll be honest. I can speak about ways that we have worked to, and we've seen some improvement, but we have not, I don't think that we have gotten to where we wanted to get to with family engagement. But we have amazing department that works with our parent liaisons, work on outreach along with our administrators. We have, as I said, we've offered morning and afternoon meeting sessions. We've done workshops on relevant issues that we've surveyed parents that they're interested in. We have different parent groups. I mean, obviously everybody has, special ed parent group, the EL parent group, and trying to have them meet on a more regular basis. We use software that will allow for easy communication, but I don't feel like we've quite gotten to where we want to. The other thing that we did, we had a parent group, a parent volunteer group that was at all of our events and really helped work with other parents to make sure that they were connected to the school. They knew who to call. They knew how to see their kids' grades. They knew what events were coming up, and they would speak at, our freshman orientation. So they would speak to all the new parents, but really trying to have them be able to model and answer questions that they could, as a parent, that would be different than myself or somebody else answering for them. But that's something I will say again, we have such a great community, but there's a lot of needs where there's people who are working 2 jobs, and it's not for an excuse, but they care, but are not always able to get to the school. We are 80% free and reduced lunch school, and with that comes some different challenges.
So, next question, what role should student government play in the culture of the school and also in giving the student body a voice?
I think they should have an extremely large role, and I think it doesn't have to be student government alone. I know something that I asked in the interview was, did the students think that they had, what did they think of student voice and in the decision making? And they said they'd like to see it improved, which I think that happens in most schools. But I think it needs to be a really strong piece of it. And I would want to see other avenues as well, maybe, so it's not just so concentrated. There's some students who may not get involved in student government, but maybe they would get involved in another way. So having multiple options to get student feedback and student input on decisions that are going to impact them.
Okay. How would you help Barnstable High School compete against very successful private and charter schools on the Cape?
Well, I think again, and certainly I don't know if the public relations question was around this, but I think being in a place that students want, and being a school where students want to be. I know, I think it was in the parent group that somebody said that students come in 8th grade and then leave for 9th grade, and they're already in the school. So really making sure that the school is a place where they all feel like they belong. 1,800 students is obviously a lot and could be daunting, but there's so many wonderful things about having a large school as well. So I think really focusing on having it be a place where people feel like they belong and are engaged and motivated by what they're learning. And I truly think that will sell itself if that is, when that is happening.
Next question is, in your opinion, what are your opportunities for improvement or growth professionally?
Oh goodness, do I have to say them all? Okay, I'm going to come up with one. That's a good question on a community forum. Well, I know that while I'm very excited about diving into the anti-racism work, I absolutely know that as a white woman brought up middle class to upper middle class, that I have biases that I still probably don't even know about, and don't know how they play out. I'm really excited and know that I need to learn more and understand more, both about certainly myself and how that impacts, and how that impacts other people. So, I mean, it's one of the things that really excites me. I may have some other things I need to work on, but I'll have to save those for another time.
Thank you. Would you be looking to increase the number of Cvte offerings at the high school? If so, have you thought of programs that you may want to explore?
Honestly, to me, I would want to come to the school community and understand what the vision is of the school. I absolutely believe in Cvte. I wouldn't have been there for so long. I think vocational education is wonderful, but I would want to know what the school is really looking for. I did see like the new environmental science program, which is fantastic. So if that is the direction that the school had been looking in, I am certainly a proponent. I mean, either way, I'm a proponent of making sure that what students are learning is relative, real world, and connected. So, but I have not gone in thinking, oh, this should happen. I mean, to me, it's getting to know a school and a community to understand what their needs and sort of dreams are for the school.
Okay. Sports teams at Barnstable High School are competitive and successful and help breed pride in the school family. How would you support the continued success of student athletes?
I mean, without a doubt, students are involved in athletics and other after-school programming. Right? We all know research shows like they do better. I think I would support it by certainly modeling my excitement. I think, again, it's that celebrating and publicizing the work that's happening with all of the sports and all of the clubs that students are involved in. And the students, and I think more so the students, ask a lot of questions about sort of bringing spirit back, feeling that there was a little bit of spirit missing. And I think trying to understand that more with the students of what's going on, but really trying to bring that sense of connection and belonging together to I guess, support one another and like celebrate the athletic success they have. But to me, if there's like a strong program, it's what you want to continue going with.
Sorry. So it seems we have lost one of our interpreters. So Bill and Liz, if you could just slow down a little bit for Adela, because she is now translating for both of you. So just give her a little bit more time in between your answers. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. What strategies do you use now to ensure safety, physical, mental, et cetera, for students at Greater Lawrence?
That is a big question. It's a good one, but it's a big one. So I think there's a lot of things that we do at Greater Lawrence around safety. So in terms of the physical safety, we have, I think, a very secure building. We have one entrance into the school. We have a great front desk system. I see that you have a similar system in your front office, but so that we know who is in the building at any time. We have security staff who are fantastic, who connect really well with the student bodies. So they're not there in any punitive measure. They're there really to help students like feel comfortable and just sort of help make sure everything goes okay. But it's really nice just like having, people in the hall and around if students have questions or any needs. So in terms of physical, I feel like we've really kept a very, a really safe building. A lot of people out in the hallways, adults in the hallways as well. In terms of with the emotional piece of it, I think there's a lot of different things that we do. So in terms of we've really worked to enhance our counseling staff. At different times, we've done different things, but we have partnered with agencies to allow for students to have counseling in the school whose families would like to access that, because it often makes for a more successful and consistent counseling program. We have advisory, where we have an adult who's connected with a small group of students that meets once a week, and where we often do work around social emotional, just checking in to see how they're doing, going over grades, just making sure that they're okay. We have in ninth grade, we became part of a grant, Building Assets and Reducing Risks. It's called BAR. And that is really to help ensure that every single ninth grader is known. Ones who are doing well are celebrated. Ones who are really struggling are supported. We have a great ninth grade team who has, we've changed up how the common planning time, where one of the times is set to really be able to look at the data of how students are doing and then figure out what needs to be put in place. And along with that has come some developmental education pieces as well that is done in advisory. And that over we're just in our second year, and we saw a huge change in failures, which again, for us is really connected to the emotional and to the projected progress that they're going to make in school, and many other things. I'm going to start babbling in a minute. I'm sorry, I'm losing a little focus. I want to make sure I've answered the question, but I mean, we have a lot of things in place. I mean, we have a mentor program. We have peer mediation. We're really working on restorative justice. We're, trying to do things differently. We've incorporated into our room where students, it was traditionally called like in-school suspension. We do not call it that. We have a wonderful person in there who actually works with some of the tools around social emotional learning or the compassionate systems framework to really help students reflect and do things differently. Stop there. Sorry, Adela. Just realized.
I'll let her catch her breath. If we were to ask the students at Greater Lawrence to give 3 words to describe you, what would they be?
Oh my goodness. I think they'd say I was a bit hyper. I don't know if that's what I want to say, but in the mornings I drive them sort of nuts. So I think they would say that I am caring, and I think they'd say I'm dedicated.
Okay. Then just a question, kind of getting back to your kind of beginning at the high school, if you were selected for the position, how do you envision your transition into the role of principal if selected?
That's a big question too, in terms of, I mean, for me, if I was selected, I would want to certainly start getting to know the community better. So the Barnstable High School community, but also the Barnstable community. And I'd really want to start with listening and trying to understand where the school is at. And I think I've said something similar for some other answers, but it's really important to me. And I think it's really important to go in with and gather all the information you can and form those relationships. Get stakeholders involved so that when you look as a group of changes you may want to make, you're doing it together and you have a good understanding of what the community's needs and wants are. So I think it would be a lot of just being really present and visible and learning, a lot of learning.
Okay, thank you. This is kind of a follow-up question to the restorative justice that you had mentioned. So at Barnstable High School, how would you address, kind of the larger issue of inequity that is holding back so many students at the high school?
Well, that's a really easy question. I'm just kidding. That is so big. How would I? I mean, I think it would, I know that just watching like the community forum, I know that there is like some great work happening around equity right now. And those conversations are so important because sometimes we can't see the systems that we've just lived in and sort of understand their impact until we learn more and can take a step back. I think I would want to do that with the staff to be able to sort of look at the current conditions and literally look at the data. The data should be able to tell a story. The data being anecdotal as well. I'm thinking just about some of the questions I got from students today, and a particular question that was really moving about how I would handle a situation with an adult who they felt was not paying any attention to a student of color. so that it's certainly not an easy one, but I think I would want to 100% face it. I'd want to hear from the students and the staff where they feel things are inequitable. And I think one of the things, while I know it can be hard to come from the outside into a community, I think there can also be, that can really be a benefit as well, because sometimes you're able to see things in a way and take a step back without having sort of that emotional connection yet, to look at what's happening. So, I mean, all I can say is that I'm fully committed and dedicated to ensure that like all students are getting what they need. So, and again, whether it be looking and saying, wow, we're really having students, a small amount of students of color, or or wow, our students, our low income students, there's none of them in the honors classes, or they're, like, what is the data telling us about what our systems, how our systems in place may be putting up barriers.
Okay. Another follow-up on kind of the student voice that was linked to the student government question. You had mentioned there are other ways outside of student government for students to have voices. You touched on that a little bit. Could you expand on that and kind of talk about some other ways that you feel staff or the principal can give students a voice or enhance student voice at the school?
Sure. Well, one, I talked with the students about really wanting to hear from them of some of the places they think that could happen. But I think of just even from surveys alone, which are not like great ways, but to really make sure that you're hearing from all students. I think of some of the work with compassionate systems where you are getting students involved with issues that might be happening at a local level and hearing what their concerns are. And it might happen through a class that you're going to get information, or it might happen through a club that you're going to get information. I think depending, again, I'm not sure how it works there, but I know like when we would have a committee. So if there's a scheduling committee, ensuring that you have students on those committees. And while of course you'd want it connected to student government, there may be ways where they report back, or, so that more students are able to get involved in different ways, not just the ones who are in student council.
We're coming to the end of the the questions that have been submitted. I guess the last question we have is, again, kind of a broad one, but how would you view your leadership style as a principal?
Sure. I would view it, and I hope my staff would view it the same way, as really a collaborative. I know I stressed it, and I really wholeheartely believe in it when I say that we can accomplish more together than we can apart. That being said, I know I mentioned it's just some groups today that I think when I first started as principal, I probably collaborated a little bit too much, meaning it could be frustrating because it can be harder to get things done. But I feel like I've really learned, again, just ensuring that the stakeholders that need to be at the table are at the table, and asking those questions with others who are working on different things. Just like that's the one thing, just making sure that the people who need to be part of it are part of it. So I think very collaborative. I like to think, and I've certainly heard that it can be empowering in terms of many of the things I have talked about have not been things that have come from me. Some have, but many haven't. And there are things that have been brought by teachers or other administrators. And I'm so thankful that they feel comfortable to do that, and that they are willing to work so hard. Because unfortunately, sometimes when you bring things up that you're excited about, you get roped in to doing it. But so I really try to empower others. Again, I think what we can get done when we all have ownership into something is pretty amazing to see. And I think I am caring, but caring, and I have at the same time, which they can go together, but I really have high expectations So I really try to understand where people are at, but that doesn't mean that we can just accept something that isn't working, but really trying to come at it in a compassionate and caring way, and listening. But I'm somebody who will always be pushing for how we can do better for our students. So I think people would kind of say I'm a little relentless sometimes, but I think in a good way. So we'll see what they have to say at the site visit.
Thank you, Liz. That is the end of the questions that have been submitted. And I would like to thank everyone for submitting those very thoughtful and thought-provoking questions. Before we end, I don't know if you have anything in closing, Liz, you want to say before we conclude?
Okay. Just to thank you all. It's been such a pleasure to get to know people a little bit today, or a little bit about Barnstable High School and the community. And just this short time really solidifies my desire to be part of the Barnstable Public Schools. And I hope I have the opportunity to get to know you better. And thank you.
Thank you, Liz. With that, I will turn it back over to Sarah Beal. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I just want to note that this finalist forum, as well as the one from Tuesday night, will be available on the Channel 18 video on demand in case you missed Tuesday night. And thank you all for joining us. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.